Welcome back, everyone, to Lobby Legends Noblegarden. We are about to start our game 2 of Lobby A here. We just had the first game, an exciting one indeed, coming down to, guess what, two Naga comps facing off against each other for a few rounds. But some really creative ways to sort of gain an edge on your opponent we saw in there. But overall, Sol, what are your takes from game 1? Because this is the first game of this fresh, brand new meta.
Yeah, I posed a question at the start which needed answering because we don't know what the competitive meta looked like and we've been burned before. So I have to ask the question, can they find a way to absolutely tempo out hard enough that players lose too much health to triple into sixes, right? And then you kind of cut off Naga at source by doing it that way. Based on one game sample size, the answer to that is a resounding no, because we saw a reborn Death Rattle double Meccano tank with Divine Shield Poison from Bofa. We saw double scaling Wrathweavers with Tricksters and Divine Shields from Zixo. Two incredibly high tempo opening. We didn't dig in with Roger too much, but just from seeing him on the other side of combats, he was also doing early tempo demons with Wrathweaver as well, and he died in 8th. So based on our first game sample, that stuff just doesn't work, which is kind of what I called out at the beginning, right? And I think it is going to have to be a matter of hit or scam as best as possible. And if you're not hitting, you just have to find a way to turn 7th into 6th, 6th into 5th, 5th into 4th, and just try and do that every game possible. Wow, that's a patchwork. Okay, let's go.
Yeah, and so honestly, speaking about this pick here, because we are looking at Yannisei, who won the previous lobby, so currently sitting on 7 points. Obviously, the choices weren't mind-blowing from what I saw, but is this a choice to just say, well, if I just pick Patchwork and just, again, try and play all right, I'm likely to not get 8th, and you know, just to retain some level of point gain?
Raven, I think you're right on the money. I think that's exactly what it is. I think he's looking at those heroes and he looks at a Patchwork and says, if I get out of this lobby with 4th, 5th, just from not being able to lose health quickly enough to die before other people, cool. Game 3, go next. You know, we'll work from there. I think that's absolutely fine in the position that he's in. Makes a lot of sense. Looking around the rest of the tavern, SJMR has Omu, one of the very best heroes. Talked about this before. Incentivized to level, rewarded for leveling, and that is the absolute turbo nuts opening. Omu wants economy unit on 1, so he's able to do this, level on 2, use that economy to then pick up an additional minion with that boosted gold from the level. But picking up not only the economy unit, high attack economy unit that can actually trade nicely with other things, and then also finding the pair to go along with that on the level is absolutely massive. Elsewhere, Kid on Barov, another massive hero for high rolling and going for firsts. Alucard on the Queen Ashara, same deal, great position. And now Zixo this time on the Maiev will be looking to be one of the bullies in the lobby as well. Very, very nice looking spread of heroes. Lots of potential, high roll potential for a lot of these heroes to find their way to those Tavern 6 Nagas.
Yeah, one thing I do want to keep an eye on, and I'm sure, you know, maybe in a few turns' time we'll check in, but Roger playing Flurgle as well is a tough one because Roger's currently on 0 points, so he needs big finishes for this game and the next one. And Flurgle, although is very, very strong, is it strong enough, right? I think that's going to be the question that needs to be answered here, because it's not like now. I mean, I've played a Naga game as Flurgle before. It happens, and maybe Roger will too. But generally speaking, the heavy focus on Murlocs, like, what result will that get Roger? Because if it's not at least, you know, honestly, 1st, 2nd at this point, I think he's going to have a very, very difficult task going for him in the future.
Coin level, coin hero power for the Barov on that position with a triple already frozen in shop is a Interesting line for sure, because I would imagine with that triple already frozen, that you might be looking to level a little bit more aggressively in that position. You are Barov. If you continue to use bets, continue to win bets, you'll have all the gold that you need to be able to power level super fast and potentially take that even as a 6. So the choice to stay down and defend some health there is a really interesting one from our Barov player. We did not see the choice of the bet, but we will see at least the outcome. Oh, that's terrible news for Kid. I don't know exactly what his curve plan is for this triple, but I can promise you it hinged on getting some extra money from some gambling here.
Yeah, at this point, do you think he's going to just level, buy something else and freeze just to buy more time and not triple into a 2, which feels very meek at best?
I mean, the problem now is, because he didn't level on the previous turn on kind of Jeef curve, and because he missed on the bet, he's now a long way away from actually turning that triple into anything impactful, because gone are the days you're like, okay, I'm going to take a greedy triple here, and a greedy triple could be a 5 into a Bran or something, right? Like, that's just not good enough anymore. You have 2 options. You take triples straight away for tempo, or you take 6s. There's no middle ground, essentially, right? So he's now so far away from being able to do anything impactful with this. It'll be very interesting to see how he gets there now.
Yeah, I would actually expect to see just a level hero power again next turn from him as well, just to try and catch up, because I think he's already hit the point where like the words high roll are going to come into it, because he just needs to just accelerate the level and hit something absolutely huge here. He's going to be able to push a decent chunk of damage into the Omu, so SJMR is going to be dropped down to, what's that, 34? But still, as Omu, the benefit you get from the fast level doesn't really matter.
Hello, all right, to the moon. Kid's dilemma is solved. We know what's happening here. That is 2 triples in shop now and a 1 bet. And I'm sure we will rejoin him when he completes his eventual journey to Tavern 6. Very relevant, by the way, there was the Chef's Kiss trade of the Spawn of N'Zoth into his 1 attack minion during that previous fight against the Omu, which probably allowed him to push damage. May have been a tie if that had gone differently, but that meant that he still has plenty of health to play with here. Sao King now does have kind of the tempo Naga start here with Snail and Lava Lurker. This generally means you will level a little bit quicker than other people because you will have so many stats on board. The one thing he is missing right now, though, is just a spellcraft minion, which he would love to welcome to the team at the nearest possible juncture, because that'll activate his Snail synergy. It'll also start pumping the Lava Lurker as well, and I think that really will allow Sao King to feel very secure about going through the levels as quickly as possible.
Yeah, he does have the bootleg version, which is the little N'Zoth there over on the left, just be able to buff some way here and make these minions a little bit more survivable, make the lava do a little bit more damage for some better trades. But you're completely right. This is the thing you sort of half happy to see and half upset about when you want to play Naga, is you get the good scaling minions, but nothing to scale them with, and that is actually just an absurd amount of damage so early.
Massive, massive chunk of damage, really important as well. People don't necessarily know it. They do because Kid is Barov, but they don't see the frozen shop that we saw. So it is extremely important that everyone smacks Kid as hard as possible. That sounds awful. Why did I choose those exact words to come out of my mouth? It's very important to deal as much damage to Kid as possible in this situation, because if you leave him above 15, he is just going to take greedy triples and get 2 6 drops and potentially run away with the lobby right now. They don't know that, but their best inclination is, well, he's a Barov who's power leveling. There's probably a good chance that there is a triple frozen in the shop, and they would be absolutely right in that assessment.
Yeah, so Alucard currently on what is that, 16 damage at a quick count, or 16 attack. Not looking like too great of a shot. Just probably making the choice now between just leveling up or just going for the rolls to keep on stacking. Because I think right now, Subtle, or at least between the casters there are, and I don't even mean me and Subtle, but some of the other people that may not be listening, there's a lot of discussion on how to play Ashara, right? And like whether you try and stack you stay low and stack early, or whether you just like spam level and get the hero power when you get it and not worry too much. I know I like to just sort of let the hero power proc whenever it wants to while I'm playing just a Naga game anyway.
Listen, if dragons are in, there's one thing you want to do,
yes,
right?
Fair.
That's the goal. You take Chroma Wing and you just try and pump it. If you get Chroma Wing Blood Gem or Chroma Wing Mini Myrmidon, you can literally just Jeef Curve straight to Tavern 4 and complete the quest as you press the Tavern 4 button, hero power same turn. That's what you want to do. If you can't do that, that's when the debate comes in. But I don't think there's necessarily much debate on like how to play Ashara. It's how quickly the Ashara quest completes if you don't have that Chroma Wing support.
Sure.
We'll shout him out specifically because he's listening and he can't argue back, which is the best scenario. But Lorinda was telling me that you always complete on 5 or 6, which I completely disagree with. And I think you just saw the evidence there. Alucard, I'm sure, knows what he's doing. He's played high tempo. I'm sure he's bought the biggest things that he can possibly find. He just went through turn 6 Tavern phase without completing a Shara quest. So I think average is above 6 if you're not hitting Chroma Wing, and that does become a bit of a problem.
Big point here. A few people might be mind blown here that this has not already been picked, but without any actual buffs. Of course, there are the coins in the hand there, and that's a big deal for Yanase. But yeah, it hurts me to say it, but I think I agree with this.
Yeah, so I'm very interested in this debate because I do think it's very contextual. Obviously, it becomes more contextual in Yanase's position because he doesn't necessarily have to play to win the lobby either, which is another interesting dynamic, which I won't even factor in just for the sake of brevity here. But there are certain supports that make each of those picks individually bigger, right? If you have a Siren, for example, snap pick Orgazoa, because then Siren's milking your Orgazoa immediately, you get tons of value over time. If you already have 2 or 3 other spellcraft minions, so you have a nice forward Naga package that you're happy to buff, then for me that becomes the immediate Athissa, and you just tempo and bully people, play all your spells, buff the 4 spellcraft Naga that you already have, and just go in from there. Either way, you probably get strong enough to level to 6 the next turn, so I don't think that really factors into the debate. But I do think it is largely contextual based on what minions you have in play. But I think for Yanase, it would have been more contextual just on what he wants to do in this particular game.
I'll tell you something though, just speaking about the monster variant, I would not want to be a Siren because I would not want to try and milk one of those. That'd be quite the dangerous job, honestly, and I'm not down for that. So although I have a huge respect for Siren as a minion, wouldn't want the job. But here we are jumping over to Abofa, who is doing, like, this looks like the starter kit, right, of just doing good Naga things. There's the Athissa, there's the Shoal Commander, which is huge, especially when you can start stacking buffs as well. And then there's the Siren. These are like some of the core minions, at least I would say, for now, that Bofa can possibly want. So it's looking all right. He's on 26 health, as Rafam as well. And Rafam can really get silly, both, I would say, in the very early and the very late game.
Everyone hitting this lobby. It looks like Zixo has found the Orgazoa as well. Does also have a ton of blood gems in hand, which looks like he has been greeding for some time, unless he's picked them up all on this turn in particular. Just based on the positioning of the spellcraft, it looks like he may have had 2 blood gems from the previous turn, but hard to be sure. However, he is going down the double brute line as well, which, you know, to me, allows him a little bit of extra tempo early on. He might just be able to bully a few people by just being initially bigger right now with the double brute. But he is kind of locked into those brutes now, and I do think those brutes eating up board space for the late game, similar to what I was saying about Lava Lurker before, but in this case even more so. They're just eating up board spaces that if you're going to go full Naga, just aren't spellcraft minions, are not being procced by your golden Siren and allowing, you know, +16/+16 from your golden Athissa by the end of the game. Big deal overall. Yeah. Roger surviving as a Flurgle on 2 health here. Thank you, damage cap. We go again.
Yeah, honestly, just quickly on brutes, I normally like 1 or golden. I don't normally like 2, depending on when you get the Brute as well, for that exact reason. But I do think 6-0 is sitting at 15. So I think he had to go there and go safe. Because remember, he gained 1 point from the previous lobby. He needs to just survive to give himself a chance. Roger now on 2 means that any damage is going to basically take him out of this game. And honestly, probably just out of his chances of actually making it through to tomorrow already. And this is what I was talking about, right? Like, we've been talking about Naga, really the way you consistently going to be able to win lobbies or top 2 lobbies, for example. The Flurgle, although a good hero, just doesn't feel good enough even when you're doing stuff like this. Like, Roger's doing well, right? He's got a lot of big Murlocs. He's not got the Sephin, which is like the thing you were really missing right now, or a Bran, I guess. But overall, the Murlocs are strong. But are they strong enough to survive?
Real quick, can we just go back to Roger just for the finish of this turn? Because it looks like he's about to hold cards in hand on 2 health. Okay, no, that's fine. Okay. It looked like he was stopping with cards in hand and he was on 2 HP, which would have been absolutely absurd, but that is fine. He is finishing the turn, maxing out tempo as hard as he possibly can. All is well with the world.
Like, look at this board. It looks fine, is the word I would use.
Yeah.
If we weren't in a Naga meta, right? It's fine. We'll see. Oh, here we go. Already manted on one side. Pretty low value board overall here as
like
he's running into Yanasa.
Yep. Definitely with that trade going into the Begurgle, that was always going to be enough now. So he has defended his 2 HP for now. That is a big, big deal. Patchwork will, of course, live to fight another day regardless because damage cap is still in play with all 8 players alive. Only took 12, it looks like, there anyway. So all of our Naga players still hanging around. No! Kid on the Barov has bitten the dust with the double triple into 6 early. He then leveled to 6 on that Barov, but then was taken out. So we do have Kid now going out in 8th place, which is a big problem for him, puts him right back into the middle of the pack. 4.5 points from the first lobby, now picking up 0, means he is going to have to scrap for placement in that final lobby.
It was the same issue. He had some good cards, but a lot of it just felt like a menagerie of just some good minions, as opposed to how synergistic, for example, SJMR's board is.
If I'm looking at this right on our little tracking tools, he had a golden Orgazoa and has died. That's he had Siren Golden Org and died with it. That is so unfortunate for Kid. That is a lobby-winning setup right there, but just did not have enough immediate tempo. And that's the argument, right? Orgazoa set you up for long-term value over the course of the game. Athissa, immediate tempo and murder people. That's the option that we saw players being given very specifically, which is a big, big deal. And these greedy Orgazoa players are actually just starting to get picked off a little bit.
Even this, it does make sense as well, because the other minions were like Chalga, you know, and
Imp Mama.
Imp Mama, like, just not minions that are realistically going to make an impact when you look at some of the other boards we've got so far.
Yep.
SJMR doing well so far. Again, just has the key components. Isn't playing Vol'jin, so this Bristleback Knight is not going to get, you know, Omega huge, but it's probably big enough at the moment to just, you know, have enough of an impact in on the game. But you definitely will need to start stacking buffs very, very quickly indeed, because SJMR simply cannot afford to lose a fight from this point onwards.
Yep. We can now see how big Alucard has got on the Ashara. I'm presuming massive, but I like this taunted Leroy on the right here from SJMR. As you see, immediately rewarded. Classically, if they haven't seen your board yet, a Naga player is going to have a huge Divine Shield minion attacking first. So that is a smart choice from SJMR, giving himself the best possible odds. But Queen Ashara, too big, hit too early. That is double Athissa on the other side. I think I might have a suspicion of who murdered the Barov if I had to guess what happened in the previous fight.
It's Roger. Oh, Roger got a draw.
Very nice.
That's huge. But yeah, and we just saw quickly then from Alucard, I'd love the setup. Golden Siren, normal Siren, 2 Athissas as well. Just really popping off with those buff stackings. Jumping over to Sixo, who's having a much better game. He got taken down to 15 relatively early, but he's managed to really stabilize, just sticking on 15 health and, you know, at least drawing fights, if not winning a few too.
Yeah, and from what we've seen from Yanase on Patchwork, the board is not going to compete with these brutes unless there has been a significant upgrade. These brutes are paying out pretty big for Zixo right now. Bran Murazond, I think Murazond in general is a very, very nice choice in the meta. You do have to reprogram yourself to see Murazond as a Naga. You just have to recategorize it because that's what it's going to be most of the time, since most of your late game opponents are going to be playing that particular minion type. This Athissa pickup now for Yanase is huge. This allows some amount of stats being dumped on the board. He does also have 2 minion types for that Manted Queen, but as far as I can see, none of the spellcraft on it already, which would allow it to cheat chances at finding Divine Shield, right? If you put the Wind Fury or Taunt spellcraft on the Manted Queen, it then already has that enchantment and can't gain it from the start of combat effect. But that is a vanilla Manted Queen as far as I can see, so it's just going to roll twice.
Yeah, and this is the frustration you can hit, and I've been in this position many times where you think you have a good Naga board, but then you just never hit the triple. And then you realize you're taking one spellcraft minion out for another, and like, does that really improve your board?
The passive scaling is just so monstrous from that double Siren. No Divine Shield though, but look at the difference it made. That's such a bad trade though. But you looked at the way the two boards matched up going into the fight and you're like, yeah, Zixo still has that. Then the passive scaling kicked in. Then Yanase was probably, I would say, favored from that position, but he missed on the Divine Shield on the Manted Queen and then got the worst possible trades with his Quillbore as well, which means he is going to go down alongside Roger, both going down in 5th, 6th.
No, and Sao King as well, right?
Oh, and Sao King as well. I didn't even
all
see
three.
That one. Okay, yeah, incredible.
Which is good for Yanase too, right? It's just that extra little, you know, evening out the points a little bit more, which is going to more than likely keep him at least in the top 4 after this game. Moving on though to Alucard, like having the time of his life. Alucard was joint 3-4 last lobby, right? So he's sitting on 4.5 points right now, and honestly, Subtle, unless something crazy happens, he's looking like he's going to run away with this because none of the other players that are still alive feel even remotely this strong.
Yeah, I'm scanning around the rest of the lobby and I'm not really seeing a competitor. I guess we go have a look at Bofa right now, who looks like he might be in the closest spot to be able to fight with this. There you see it. Does have the Ghost on this turn as well. We get the option to full greed. But you can still see, I said we get into this a little bit later on in terms of optimizing your late game Athissa board. I would say Bofa is some way away from doing that. You want Golden Siren, which he does not have. You want 0 spaces on your board being used up by things that are not Spellcraft or Athissa. And currently, he's just locked into that snail. It's too big. He can't sell it, right? If he sells it, he's going to lose a fight and die over the next 2 turns. He might just win this turn against the Ghost, but he'll still lose the next turn because he won't be able to replace it with a minion of equal size. So he's still some way away from making it happen. Whereas if we look at this, well, that's a Golden Siren, that's a regular Siren, and that's every space on the board being used up by Athissas or Spellcraft minions. That is exactly what you want at this point in the game.
Yeah, Leroy going to take out the glow scale, but again, that's normally not a problem because glow scale's small. Glow scale's actually big here for Alucard because it's been around for a while, and the two Thissas, but also, most importantly, Alucard's just infinitely bigger than Zixo right now, and he is just going to knock Zixo out, but a good recovery there. Zixo, I think, 7th last game, and now 3rd. Like, that's fine, right? That keeps him in, I think, going into game 3.
Yes, I did. As you well know, the 3 of us, Lorinda, who is doing the observing and spectating for this event, myself and Raven, we spent a lot of time over the last couple of days in a call together, jamming games and screen sharing and just, you know, sharing thoughts and things about the game for this event. Lorinda would get into these positions in the late game where he'd be like final 2, final 3 or whatever. She'd be like, oh, do I win this fight because like he's taunted his Leroy or whatever? I'm like, Lorinda, you're 3 times as big as your opponent. the positioning does not matter here. That's just kind of what we're looking at right now. Yeah, that is just kind of what we're looking at here with Alucard. Just bigger. And as the great Slisser once told me, size matters.
Honestly, I had no clue where you were going to go with quotes because there are so many. You know, again, both I imagine he has an inkling that he needs to do something miraculous here to be able to have any chance of winning this versus Alucard. I'm not sure when the last time he fought him was. I imagine because he's still alive, it's a while ago. But still, going to be happy at second place if that's what happens here, building on that 2.5 points he got from the previous game.
Yeah, the Leroy will do a little bit of work here at the very least, but unfortunately, he is just smaller, I believe, than his opponent at this point. Would not be surprised to see Alucard picking up a small taunt to compensate for the Divine Shield. Yep, there it is, taunting the Siren up on the other side.
Yeah, that works too.
Yeah, Bofa wins the 50-50 regardless, killing the bigger minion, but it just does not matter. This is the Lorinda situation. We can talk about the little interactions all we want. Alucard is just twice as big as his opponent.
Yeah, and like you said, the snail just not good enough, right? Couldn't quite kill anything off, and that does mean Alucard's going to take game number 2. Bofa coming in second, and I do think that is squishing some of the leaderboard together, but with what, a third, fourth, and a first place, Alucard is looking fantastic going into this final game of this lobby. He's looking great and must be feeling pretty confident, and maybe we'll see him do the not specifically patchwork, but that style of, yes, of course you'll play to win, but at any point you look like you're falling behind, do anything you can to just gain 1 extra, 2 extra points, because that'll probably secure Alucard a solid enough position to make it to tomorrow.
I just want to shout out the mentality as well. Obviously, we can't hear Bofa. If anyone actually has Bofa's stream opening, they can speak to how much salt was being pushed through those grins. But his attitude so far, I think, just laughing that off, smiling, like, yep, all right, nothing I can do about that. Alucard's just bigger, hit harder, hit earlier. I will take my points, and I will sit now happily in 4th place, which is exactly where he wants to be in the scenario. He's in with a shout. He just needs to have one more decent lobby, and he's going to find himself through to Sunday. Roger in colossal trouble. SJMR in colossal trouble. Kid, unbelievably, if you'd have shown me that board with 2 triples as Barov off the back of a successful bet with 3 coins coming into the hand that turn, I would have said Barov was going to do very well in that lobby, but it was a fat 8th for Kid, which means he is now in trouble as well. And you would imagine, unless something spectacular happens, the fight for top 4 is going to be between the current top 5, with maybe just Kid trying to sneak in there if he can really make something special happen.
Yeah, it's the fact that even just from Bofa, Kid is 4 whole points away, right? Like, that is a big point difference to actually try and make up for in one game. I do, again, feel sorry for Kid. I think that turn we actually sort of tuned into his view and saw the failed Barov turn, right? I think that was maybe the point where if he'd made that turn and won that roll, things would have looked a lot more different than 0 points would be my offering here. So he would have maybe been that 1 turn ahead of the game, but already Alucard 11.5 points. I mean, even if he got 0 points this game, there's probably a solid chance he's still in the running, depending on how the rest of the lobby plays out, of course. So we'll have to see how that one goes. But again, that one felt a lot faster, right? And I think we saw, again, the different style of end game, where instead of 2 players sort of dueling for that top finish, it was very much like, no, I got there first, I got there better, I have more stuff than you, therefore I will just punch you very hard. And that, like, one big fight was all that was really needed.
But also, I do think there is one point to look at as well, which is, we didn't see how every player ended up with an Orgazoa on their board, but basically every player ended up with an Orgazoa on their board. We saw one player in specific take that over the Athissa, and I do think the players that were still milking and setting up with the Orgazoa just got murdered by the Athissa players, right? Which is definitely something to look at. I think certainly on ladder, the overwhelming weight seems to be going to you take Orgazoa first if you have the option, because that allows you to set up and spiral. But I do think, when everyone is playing more optimally, when every point of gold, when every stat is being maximized, when everyone's playing super well, that ability to just die while you are being just that one touch too greedy is something that you do have to keep an eye on. But again, that is always in competitive play, massively contextual, not only based on your board state, but also based on your game state and your tournament state, right?
Yeah.
Right, as to how greedy you need to be in any given spot.
And I will say, I think that one we did see on stream of the actual, you know, the heads up in the Discover was, I think, Omu, which means that I think at that point you had like 3-4 minions on board because they were pushing the levels, and I think one other minion was a Naga. So then I think like on that one point I can definitely see it more than others, where it's less about, you know, milking and more about, well, I need some Nagas before I try and pop off with a Thissa, right? Or it won't really achieve much anyway. But yeah, very interesting game number 2. And already I feel like time is flying, Sottle, but we are getting ready for our game 3 and final game of this lobby. Just in case you're just joining us or don't really know how Lobby Legends works, there are 2 lobbies of 8 players each. This is lobby A now, and we're on our 3rd game. Once this next one's going to be over, we are going to go over to lobby B, so a new set of 8 players you haven't seen on stream yet, and then they will play out their 3 games, and then the top 8 from both of those sets will then go into tomorrow's play for that final day, and I absolutely cannot wait. But I believe for now we are going to jump to a quick break while we set up the next game, so don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back.